I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. One of Donald Trump's co-defendants is clearly spilling the beans to special counsel Jack Smith and giving a treasure trove of information to Jack Smith in multiple cases, including the case involving Donald Trump's theft of thousands of government records, including top secret and classified records, a case being prosecuted in federal court in the Southern District of Florida. But it's not just any co-defendant. It's Donald Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows. And it appears that the way we are learning about this is that Mark Meadows or someone in his camp is leaking this information. They want the public to know what Mark Meadows is doing. And I think this is the case for a number of reasons, and then I'll go into what Mark Meadows is telling special counsel Jack Smith, and it actually seems to be a fairly significant amount of information, and this was all being reported over the weekend first by ABC. Give a shout out to them. But remember, Mark Meadows is the co-defendant with Donald Trump in the sprawling RICO racketeering criminal case brought by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis last week. Mark Meadows filed a removal notice to federal court, and over the weekend, Meadows filed a motion to dismiss, citing the Supremacy Clause of the United States Constitution, as well as the First Amendment and the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, respectively, as grounds for dismissals. Ultimately, the case is right now before federal judge Steve Jones as it relates to Meadows in the Northern District of Georgia. I think the threshold jurisdictional question is going to have to be addressed first before addressing the motion to dismiss filed by Mark Meadows. There's an evidentiary hearing on the removal to federal court before federal judge Jones, an Obama appointee, law and order, no nonsense, super fair judge. That's scheduled for August 28th. Going to be briefing by Fulton County District Attorney. Then I think we'll see briefing on the motion to dismiss issue, depending on the jurisdictional issue. But I think Meadows wants the world to know that he's cooperating with Jack Smith to try to get out of the Fulton County District Attorney case. I think Meadows lawyer and Meadows team's like, hey, look, we're helping there. And then when they're citing the Supremacy Clause as it relates to the Fulton County District Attorney case, Meadows is going to be arguing, hey, look, I was just doing my work as the chief of staff. Trump was the criminal using me for nefarious purposes, but I wasn't complicit in the criminal scheme. I think he's going to argue. I think that's a bit of a stretch to make that argument, but that's how I think Meadows is trying to deal with cooperating with Jack Smith, and I think proffering to Jack Smith to try to avoid prosecution by Jack Smith. And now that he's a co-defendant in the sprawling racketeering case, how does he kind of address the two? And he's had an aggressive strategy. He did a whole other video about how Meadows just filed this motion to dismiss. And so at MeidasTouch.com, the new home of all things MeidasTouch, make sure you check it out. By the way, we really broke down the 5 main things that Mark Meadows has told to Jack Smith, as first reported by ABC, but we broke it down, I think, in a pretty detailed way. The first thing Mark Meadows told Jack Smith is that Meadows has no knowledge of Trump declassifying any of the records Trump stole. Number 2, Meadows has no knowledge of Trump having a standing order to declassify the records that Trump stole. Remember early on from Trump and his lawyers like Alina Habba and Christina Bobb and all of those nonsense, clownish, people who they're lawyers, but disgracing the profession. They would say that he kind of telepathically declassified the documents, or he had a standing order that as soon as documents were shipped to Mar-a-Lago, they went from classified to declassified. We talked about how that was a bunch of nonsense, and actually, in my view, it made it even worse what he did, because by, in his own mind, telepathically declassifying things without going through a normal declassification process and not informing the people whose names could now be public record, he was placing the lives of military personnel, in addition to our troops, foreign assets, and those here, putting people's lives in danger, and could have and probably did get people killed as a result of his conduct. Number 3, Meadows apparently informed Jack Smith that he did not help Trump pack boxes from the White House when Trump stole the classified records. Meadows had nothing to do with the process of moving the boxes or taking the boxes from the White House to Mar-a-Lago. Number 4, Meadows advised Trump in 2021 when the National Archives reached out and said that they wanted to get their documents back and presidential records back and classified records back, and documents were missing. Meadows reached out to Trump in 2021 and said that he'd be willing to help. He told Trump, let me help you. I can go through these boxes with you. I'll do it for you. And then we can get the boxes back to the National Archives so that there's not going to be any issues. And apparently Trump rejected the help that Meadows was offering there. And which goes to intent. And then number 5, Meadows apparently told Jack Smith that he removed from his autobiography portions of the prologue that was written by the ghostwriters for his book, which referenced Trump showing the ghostwriters classified war plans in July of 2021. And you'll recall in the indictment voted on by the Southern District of Florida grand jury, brought by special counsel Jack Smith. And one of the incidents that it mentions is how in July of 2021, Donald Trump was showing Iran war plans to ghostwriters of Meadows' books and saying, hey, doesn't this make me look better than doesn't this make me look better than Mark Milley? General Milley, aren't I better than the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff? Isn't he wrong? Isn't he a loser? Trump just saying these kind of ridiculous third-grade petulant child things, but showing ghostwriters who have no access, should have no access at all to top secret documents and war plans of Iran. He was showing them the classified material. And then he denied that it was war plans of Iran. He said, I was just showing them newspapers. Then in the superseding indictment, where in addition to Trump and his co-defendant Waltine Nauta, the maintenance worker Carlos de Oliveira was also brought in and indicted for being involved in a conspiracy with Trump and Waltine Nauta to destroy surveillance footage. That was part of the superseding indictment. But there it mentioned, I believe it was on page 17 of the superseding indictment, and it referenced one of the counts. I think it was the 31st or 32nd count of the superseding indictment for willful retention of national defense information, that the document that Trump was showing the ghostwriters was indeed the Iranian war plans, and that special counsel Jack Smith had that in his possession. So Meadows, in the prologue, had the publisher remove references to that because the book was released before, a lot of this went down. So Meadows at that time knew that Trump was committing the crime. So Meadows aiding and abetting Trump there by basically the evidence of the crime was in the prologue. When Meadows said, delete that from the prologue, that could be viewed as obstructive conduct and obstruction of justice. So that's one of the things that in a proffer session, Meadows would tell Jack Smith, and then maybe Jack Smith in exchange for testifying against Donald Trump and not prosecuting Meadows. So that seems to what have occurred here, that Meadows provided that piece of information to Jack Smith. Then Jack Smith agreed, okay, maybe Meadows, I'm not going to prosecute you for that, for cooperating, but you have to be a witness against Donald Trump. And so, of course, all of the stuff that Meadows is, I think him and his team are selectively leaking to the media right now. They're doing that to show that he's being cooperative, number one. He's trying to show that he shouldn't have been brought in as a criminal defendant. I mean, I think he should have still, but that's what he's trying to kind of build sympathy and show that he's look, I'm helping. I'm being supportive of this. And he wants to show that Trump is also lying and not telling the truth as well, again, to kind of curry favor. So that's what's going on here. But all those things that I said, those 5 things are very, very, very powerful evidence against Donald Trump. I mean, just think about these various cases where you're going to have people like Bill Barr, Trump's former attorney general, the former vice president, Pence, his former chief of staff, former lawyers like Pat Cipollone and Eric Hirschman and Patrick Philbin. All these people are going to testify against him. The Governor Kemp could testify against him in the Georgia case. I mean, there's the Secretary of State, Republicans, Democrats. Again, what we have now is a situation where the Republican Party doesn't really exist anymore. I mean, it's MAGA. It's the all kind of Trump MAGA people, and then other people who are like actually Republican are like, look, we'll testify against Trump and we'll tell the truth. And so a lot going on here. And of course, we'll keep you posted about the evidentiary hearing for Meadows seeking to get federal jurisdiction of the Georgia case, as well as Meadows' motion to dismiss that he filed in federal court before Judge Jones. We would expect that there will be a opposition, or at least a briefing schedule request by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis in that. And we can refer to my other hot take as I go through the analysis of what Meadows is arguing, what Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis is arguing. We do a deep dive there. Check out MeidasTouch.com for more analysis, and hit subscribe. We're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers on this YouTube channel. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on the next video.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.